Welcome back, you hear with Goldberg. Today we'll be talking about high-value Kevinism. Yeah, you got that right. Now, first of all, best wishes to his family. It's always a tragedy when someone passes on well before their appointed time. Now, I was familiar with Kevin's content, although by no means engrossed in it, probably because as a product of the black community myself, I had a pretty clear idea of what was going on in terms of his marketing strategy. And that's what we'll really fixate here, because if you can stop moralizing for a minute, you might be very successful on the internet.com. But if you get caught up in the ideology and emotion, you're going to fail. So, in years past, you had people who identified as Ib Moore and Sissy Black Manosphere who would do the same thing that he did, complaining and whining about black women. The problem was that they all matched the same general phenotype. Fat guy in a hoodie with a beard with one of those. They're not quite a ballpark hat. I think it's called a snapback. They look ridiculous. And a black woman's going to see that and go, okay, another sexually frustrated incel. Or the other term I've seen thrown around is a collard green cell. I don't know if that's correct. If not, make a comment and inform me. This is because much of it comes down to image. The black community, more than any other group in the United States, is very image conscious. This is why when I lived in the city on the weekends, you see these old guys who didn't have much money, but they're in the pinstripe suits, fedoras, nice shoes, nice cars. The younger black men might have a job at a restaurant or work retail, but they've got the phone posits, brand new Jordans, gold watch. Emperor Dion has a small black pill channel. He was making this observation, which I find as well. Perfectly trimmed beard, haircut all the time. That's because amongst black people in particular, image and status is very significant. Even if you don't have resources, you have to project it. All right? And I'm not hating on people for doing it. We're just trying to analyze. In fact, if you remember the movie Barbershop The Next Cut, which, by the way, has Nicki Minaj. Oh, my God. Oh, jeez. That's dangerous right there. There was that character called, I think his name was Cuckstop, and he always had the nice suit. He was basically a snake oil salesman. But the whole joke was that he projected value. People would listen to him because he was wearing all this fancy getup. I see a dude wearing a suit, and I think, okay, he might be an executive, or he might be an intern, or he might be working at Joseph A. Bank. But among a certain subset of the black community, a man in a suit is hashtag black excellence. It's a very serious thing. It sounds ridiculous, but that's how it works. So Kevin Samuels, as opposed to these fat, sissy black manosphere guys, he had the right combination of factors. He's in relatively good shape. He has a fitted suit. He understands. He's like an image consultant, I believe. He wasn't too young to where you can dismiss him as an angry guy who can't get laid, but he wasn't also so old and I guess, one of those dudes that hasn't quite aged like fine wine. So a black woman is more likely to listen to someone such as Kevin Samuels than most other dudes, some angry working class black guy. Doesn't necessarily mean that Kevin Samuels was successful in his own life and career, but he could project that very effectively. Fake it till you make it, high value man. This stuff, we may not like it, but it does matter, all right? And what he did most effectively was that he found a niche. He exploited intra-racial hatred amongst black people. Because going back to the suit thing, you'll see this. Some guys will look at it like, oh, he's going places. Other people will see it as he's betraying us. The guy himself, if he's successful, he might see those other people as making him look bad, not want to associate with them. Between black men and black women, and it's very sad, all the hatred and animosity, but that's an easy thing to exploit. That's how you can get attention. Roast these women or roast these men, whatever. Pitting high value versus low value. He was extraordinarily effective, and that's what you can learn. It's not really about being red pill or being whatever. It's about saying, what do people want? They want to be emotionally stimulated. They want their frustrations laid out. And they want to feel like there's some power. See, this guy, they'd say, well, Goldberg, he was spanking these black women. Well, in all fairness, you're trying to spank most black women. They usually have a sizable target. But Learn from it, okay? Instead of being like, oh yeah, we got to moralize. You see this with many of the black pillars, unfortunately. There's all this concern trolling about, oh, this person's a grifter or whatnot. No, the internet.com has no morality for the most part, okay? It's about chasing clicks, chasing likes at whatever cost. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. Kevin Samuels, although he wasn't super successful in his previous life, he was able to build up a major following. Sadly, I wish he'd lasted a little bit longer because he probably could have really enjoyed all the all that harvest in terms of the money he would make and whatnot. But if you can do something similar, if you can take the morality out of it, the whole like ideology and getting over the top and angry and just look at it as a game of entertainment, you can do quite well for yourself. And that might be a better use of your time than saying, well, I've got to prove that I'm like the most ethical and, oh, these people are grifting. You know, it sort of reminds me, uh, Aaron Clary had released this minimalism course for like $500. And the joke is that if you're really a minimalist, would you pay that money for a minimalism course? But at the same time, there are people who might watch Aaron Clary and he tells them, don't come out of Marine boot camp and buy a brand new Mustang at 18% APR because it's a bad idea. And you say, nah, I'm going to do it anyway. And then the car breaks down. You can't afford to fix it. You've got these expensive payments. Guess what? Hopefully you learned your lesson. You know, there's plenty of people advising you against it and you don't care. So honestly, if people want to send super chats to Kevin Samuels or like Rich Blooper, I don't honestly care. I'm not going to try to moralize and save them because at a certain point, you make that decision. No one's putting a gun to your head. You have to come up with that solution. And if someone has found an effective marketing strategy, is it really their faults or is it the people who follow them and fund them? All right. So I'm not interested in concern trolling anymore. You want to do that, you're going to end up frustrated, right? Because, and this is what you'll see, like a typical person who's wrapped up in that, what are they doing? You know, it started out innocent enough, watching wheat waffles, simping in my truck, rating some faces, cranking some tunes, typical incel afternoon. That's going to be your life, and it's not necessary. Granted, I don't believe that Kevin Samuels was really changing anything on a large scale because you hear people, oh, it's feminism, it's the Moynihan Report, which they've never actually read and they don't understand. But the reason women have all these high expectations, particularly black women, I had another video about the various factors, much higher educational attainment, typically making more money. And that's a class aspect as well. Women typically don't want to date down. So you can say, oh, they've got too high standards. Well, there's much more to it than just the way a guy looks. There's a lot of other factors. Feminism is a byproduct of the way that resources are distributed economically. As long as women can get jobs, run businesses, get education, feminism is going to be a thing. They're going to have higher standards. You're going to see this kind of warped dating market. So you can be like Kevin Samuels, you can gain a bunch of resources and maybe actually become a high value man instead of just LARPing as one. Or you can sit there and go, well, if I just, we got to be trad. We got to keep shaking our finger at these women and they're going to change. I don't think they're going to change until, you go to Mad Max scenario, which of course that would shave off a lot of dudes who can't, aren't in shape, can't defend themselves. So stop being fixated on, oh, this guy's a grifter, and maybe learn from them. And you could find a way to develop your own source of passive income and be a high value male. I'll be talking about why that's kind of unrealistic in terms of the image that they're selling. I'll do a separate video on it. But Kevin, he found a niche. He was able to exploit it. He did well for himself. It's a shame that he couldn't stick around longer and enjoy it. But instead of having that kind of butthurt mentality, just focus on how you can learn and maybe how it can better your own life. That's what should really, you're not going to change women and they're going to all of a sudden go back to a 50s mindset when it comes to men. That's not going to happen. But you can get yourself more resources and you can give yourself more opportunities. So think about it that way. And frankly, you'll probably have a more enjoyable life.